found the Yahud fasting on the 10th of Muharram. And he asked them, why are you fasting? He said, this is the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Anja Allahu Musa wa qawmahu min Fir'aun wa qawmi. This is the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Moses and his people from Fir'aun and his people. And so this, inshallah, we were going to speak about it anyways. This is a continuation of it. I said I was going to mention a hadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. And of course, one of his closest students is Sa'id ibn Jubair. Sa'id ibn Jubair is known for taking a lot of the knowledge from Abdullah ibn Abbas in his tafsir. You'll see in the narration of many of the tafasir from Sa'id ibn Jubair, from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. He asked him about the verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا, and we tested you with trials. And what are these tests? And what are these trials? And so Sa'id ibn Jubair, he asked Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said, سَأَلْتُ عَنِ الْفُتُونُ مَا هُ? He said, what are these trials that he went through? And so it was at the end of the day. It was at the end of the day. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said, Ya ibn Jubair, فَإِنَّ لَهَا حَدِيثًا طَوِيلًا. Said, you're asking about a long story. You're asking about a long story. So tomorrow in the morning, come back to me, and then I will tell you what these trials and tribulations are. Right, and so this is at the end of the day. He knew he doesn't want to just speak about it for a little bit and then it ends. And so he comes to him the next day, and Abdullah ibn Abbas mentions to him the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his people and what happened to them. And so he says, تَذَاكَرَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَجُلَسَاءُ وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ وَعَدَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مِنْ أَنْ يَجْعَلَ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ أَنْبِيَاءَ وَمُلُوكًا. So Fir'aun, and in Egypt, the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, of course, before that, it was Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And he was the one who came to Egypt and then brought Bani Israel, meaning the children of Prophet Yaqub. And of course, they became a community there. They became a community in Egypt, but when they were in Egypt, the people in Egypt were not Egyptians during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. They were known as the Hyksos. And so when Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam came, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established him and gave him status and position, he was one of the prophets and messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to the people of Egypt. But the people of Egypt, remember at that time, I mentioned, was the Hyksos. And the Hyksos were not Egyptians. They were an Asiatic people that came down and they conquered Egypt for about 100 years. For about 100 years. And it was during that time that Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam rose to prominence. And then the Egyptians reconquered Egypt. And when they reconquered Egypt, of course, Bani Israel, after Prophet Yusuf passed away, the children of Prophet Yusuf and the children of Prophet Yaqub, of course, they had children and they had a community there. But because when Prophet Yusuf rose to power, it wasn't under the Egyptians, the pharaohs. It was under the kings of the Hyksos. And that's why he was more willing to accept someone, probably more willing to accept someone who was not Egyptian. Because Yusuf was not Egyptian also. But he rose to prominence. But then when they lost power, the Egyptians became second-class citizens. Not the Egyptians, but the children of Bani Israel, the children of Prophet Yaqub, who became Bani Israel. And that's what who Israel is, Prophet Yaqub. And so now you have Bani Israel, they became second-class citizens. They were like, you have the upper class, and then you have the people who take jobs that the people there don't want. You know, the heavy jobs, the labor, and so they take those types of jobs. Just like how you have in some of the Gulf countries, you have the people of the Gulf states, and then you have workers coming over, and there are some jobs no Saudi or Emirati or Kuwaiti would ever take. Right? And so you have certain people that will take these jobs. And so Bani Israel, they were, after the Egyptians rose and expelled the Hyksos and they came into power, the Bani Israel became under the authority of the Egyptians. And this continued for a while. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send Bani Israel any prophet or messenger. So between Musa alayhi salam and Yusuf, there was a faragh, there was a time in which there was no prophet from Bani Israel. But they were, of course, there. And so, of course, Bani Israel, who were they? They were a people who were following the religion of Prophet Ibrahim, Prophet Ishaq, Prophet Yaqub, Prophet Yusuf, and of course, they were people of deen. And so they were speaking about how in the end, you know how we have Ashrat al-Sa'ah, that the prophets and messengers tell, like, you know, this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. So, تذاكر فرعون وجلساؤه ما كان الله وعد إبراهيم أن يجعل من ذريته أنبياء وملوكا. So, Fir'aun and his advisors, they were talking about how Bani Israel was saying that, you know, there will come from the progeny of Prophet Ibrahim, there will come a progeny. They will become kings. There will come from them kings. And there will come from them also prophets, Anbiya wa Muluka. And this was a prophecy. So Fir'aun, he hears this, and they're talking about it. And he's afraid, he says, how can, this is what they are talking about. So how can we oppose this? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen? So what is Fir'aun afraid? Fir'aun is afraid that Bani Israel will eventually rise to status and they will conquer Egypt again. And the Egyptians will be expelled again, or they will be under the authority of someone who's non-Egyptian. So they considered these people, Bani Israel, foreigners. And now they're talking about, hey, you know, we're going to conquer them. Allah will give it, will make from our children, our progeny, we will have kings. And we will have prophets also. So Fir'aun says, how can we, what can we do? He said, إِنَّ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَيَنْتَذِرُونَ ذَلِكَ مَا يَشُكُّونَ فِيهِ. He said, Bani Israel, they believe, they have no doubt that there will come a time when there will be kings from their progeny, from their children, and there will be prophets that will be sent. That means what? That means the status of Bani Israel is not going to be the same. But how can we keep them down? How can we keep them down? وَقَدْ كَانُوا يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُ يُوسُف ibn Yaqub. And they thought that it was Prophet Yusuf ibn Yaqub. He was going to be that ruler and king that would establish what? That would establish the kingdom for Bani Israel. They thought it was Yusuf, and then Prophet Yusuf passed away. Prophet Yusuf passed away, and of course, that's when the Egyptians rose to power. The Egyptians rose to power. So they said, no, it's not him. فَلَمَّا هَلَكَ, and when he passed away, قَالُوا لَيْسَ كَذَلِكَ. When he passed away, they said, no, that's not happening with him. And they said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَعَدَ إِبْرَاهِيم. But Allah promised Ibrahim that from his progeny that there will be kings and there will be prophets. But there's no prophet. There's no king. Bani Israel are still under the authority of the Egyptians. And قال فرعون, he said, okay, if that's what they're waiting for, and this is the promise that God gave to Ibrahim, then what are we going to do? كيف ترونه? فكيف ترونه? Like, what do you think we should do in this case? Now, I want you to listen to this carefully. Fir'aun, why would he take these measures? He's taking these measures because he believes that that prophecy is true. But he's so arrogant, he says, if this is what God promised them, you know what? I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen. Like, if you don't believe that there's God, that prophecy, then you don't need to do anything. Right? But he believed. He saw the faith in Bani Israel, and he believed. He says, you know what? I think their religion is true. And what God told Ibrahim is the truth also. It's going to happen, but you know what? I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen. That's the type of arrogance that he has, right? And so they فَأْتَمَرُوا وَأَجْمَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ عَلَى أَن يَبْعَثَ رِجَالًا مَعَهُمْ شَفَّارٌ. He said, so they agreed. They agreed, and they would send men with their swords, where they would go to Bani Israel, and any male who was born, they would kill him. Of course, you kill all the males, then there's no chance of any king or prophet coming from amongst them. So they said, okay, let's kill all of their children. Subhanallah. I want you to think about this. Look at how ruthless Fir'aun and his people are. The ruler. Look how, what are they afraid? Why are they doing this? It's power. They're afraid to lose power. And that's why politicians and despots and tyrants, when they're afraid to lose power, they will commit any type of atrocity to make sure that they remain in power. So people like the rulers of many countries, before even the Arab rulers, atrocious, very, 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 very harsh. They will imprison and kill and do anything they can to make sure that they stay in power. So he's sending men that go around killing who? Babies. Killing babies. Like, one of the most, what's more beautiful, more amazing than and more helpless than a baby. And then you're going to kill, this is a boy? Kill him. They kill the boy. Who? In front of who? In front of the mothers. Imagine, look at how are the mothers feeling? You give birth, and this is a baby, and the men will come knocking at the door and kill the baby in front of you. Subhanallah. This is like unheard of. This is how ruthless Fir'aun was. Like, imagine, is there any mercy in your heart to do such things? To kill a baby that's helpless, and to cause so much sadness for mothers? This was Fir'aun. And so he sent every boy that was born, and they continued to do that. And then فلما رأوا أن الكبار من بني إسرائيل يموتون بآجالهم. And then the Bani Israel, the men everyone is dying. The elders start dying. وَالصِّغَارُ يُذْبَحُونَ. And then the children, the babies are being killed. Right? The men are gone and then the babies are being killed. They said, we can't do this. This will be the end of Bani Israel. So the Egyptians are thinking, who's going to clean the streets? Who's going to take these jobs? Who's going to take these jobs that nobody wants from Bani Israel and from the Egyptians? The Egyptians don't want it. The Egyptians don't take that job. They're not going to do that. You know, the jobs that are, labor-intensive jobs and cheap wage, to pay them very little. What are we going to do? Where are we going to find people like to take care of that, to do that? And Bani Israel, they said, so to the Egyptians, they said, يُوشِكُ أن تفنوا بني إسرائيل فتصيرون أن تباشروا من الأعمال التي كانوا يكفونكم. He said, now you're going to have to do those jobs that they were doing it for you. And so they said, what should we do then? He said, فَاقْتُلُوا عَامًا كُلَّ مَوْلُودٍ ذَكَرٍ. And said, every single year, we kill one year we kill all of the males, فَيَقِلُّ نَبَاتُهُم, and then there will be less. وَدَعُوا عَامًا فَلَا يُقْتَلْ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدٍ. And then we will leave 1 year that we don't kill any baby that's born. He can live so that they won't have great numbers. As long as because Bani Israel, they were having children, one after the other. Just like, many Muslims in America and Europe, mashallah. In the end, their numbers are increasing. Their numbers are increasing. And so eventually they're going to have huge numbers and we end up being the minority. What's going to happen? But if we do this, we continue to keep their numbers low. At the same time, we have enough amongst them to take care of the jobs we don't want to do, that we don't want to take. And so they said, فَأَجْمَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. And so they agreed to do that. They agreed to do that. فَحَمَلَتْ أُمُّ مُوسَى بِهَارُونَ فِي الْعَامِ الَّذِي لَا يُذْبَحُ فِيهِ غِلْمَانٌ. So the mother of Musa gave birth to Harun on the year that they didn't kill any children. So Harun, his brother, didn't have to worry about it. His mother didn't have to worry about it because that was the year that they were spared, that the children were spared. And then, فَوَلَدَتْهُ عَلَانِيَةً آمِنًا. She gave birth in peace, and she wasn't scared and she wasn't worried at all. Because no one is going to be killed. No one's going to be coming knocking at your door to kill your baby during that year that Harun was born. فَلَمَّا كَانَ مِنْ قَابِلٍ حَمَلَتْ بِمُوسَى. So then the following year, she was pregnant with Musa. فَوَقَعَ فِي قَلْبِهَا الْهَمُّ وَالْحُزْنُ. And so when she became pregnant, she was full of anxiety and worry and sadness. Why? She was worried and she was sad. And so Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, وَذَلِكَ مِنَ الْفُتُونِ يَبْنِ جُبَيْرٍ. وَذَلِكَ مِنَ الْفُتُونِ يَبْنِ جُبَيْرٍ. He said, and that's one of the trials, the fitan, futun. That's one of the trials of, Ibn Jubair. مَا دَخَلَ مِنْهُ فِي قَلْبِ أُمِّهِ مِمَّا يُرَادُ بِهِ. That means, مَا دَخَلَ مِنْهُ, that fitna, that fear, that huzn, that sadness that entered the heart of the mother of Musa. That's one of the trials and tribulations. Meaning, one of the fitan is worrying about things that might happen to you. That's something that's very difficult. Imagine you're about to give birth to a baby, and if they hear about it, they're coming knocking at your door. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to slaughter your baby in front of your eyes. So who wouldn't be worried? So the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam was very, very worried. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired to her, and Allah takhafi wa la tahzani. So don't worry. When you give birth to him, put him in a tabut, put him in a basket, and throw him into the river. Throw him into the river. And do not worry, Allah, do not worry, and do not be saddened. Inna raduhu ilayki wa ja'iluhu min al-mursalin. Says, no, we will return him to you. We will also make him amongst the messengers. When Bani Israel didn't have any messengers and prophets from the time of Prophet Yusuf until this time. And Bani Israel, everybody's talking about it. Hey, this is coming. So imagine, like nowadays, you have a lot of problems, and the Muslim Ummah is weak. There will come a Mahdi. Your son will be a Mahdi. Imagine how the mother, like, even though there's so much problems, this is a person that has been told about by Prophet Yusuf and Prophet Ibrahim, that there will come a prophet from amongst you, right, who will raise your status again in Egypt, and from that progeny there will be kings and prophets, a succession of prophets and messengers of Bani Israel. Who has more prophets and messengers than them? So they know also. So they know. Who are the prophets that they had before them? Just Prophet Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, Yusuf, and then there's a long time. No, nothing. And it will come back. It will come back. And that first prophet that would again raise the status of Bani Israel and bring them back to prominence will be your son. So don't worry. Throw him into the river. Put him in there. And so when she gave birth to Prophet Musa, she was ordered to throw him into Al-Yam, which is the sea or the water. And she did that. She did that. But when she was thinking about it, the shaitan himself even came to her. Because anytime you're ordered to do something, the shaitan comes and doesn't want you to fulfill the promise. He doesn't want you to fulfill the orders of Allah, even if you've been promised this and that, promised this and promised that. And that's why we have always, the lesson that we can extract from that is that we have been promised so many things. And if you give, for example, if you give, Allah will give you more. And that's a promise from Allah and His Messenger. If you give for the sake of Allah, Allah will give you more. But then when there's a fundraiser and they're asking for it, we hold back. We hold back. Because the shaitan will threaten you with poverty. And so she's been ordered to put her baby and put her trust in Allah. You have to trust in Allah. Like if you do this, in the end, you're not throwing him away. You'll get him back. And when you give that money away, it's not going away. It's coming back even more, better. So the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always true. And so when she did that, of course, when she was giving birth, she was hiding. She didn't want anyone to know, of course, because Bani Israel, or the soldiers of Fir'aun, if they hear about it, if anyone hears about it, they're going to come knocking at the door. And the shaitan whispers also into the hearts of Prophet, of the mother of Musa alayhi salam. So Allah inspired her to do this. And of course, when she gets this inspiration, it's not that she's a prophet. It's not wahi from Allah that she's a prophet. No. But sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives inspiration. Sometimes it's through righteous dreams. Through righteous dreams, a person sees it. You should do this, and you should do that, and you feel like, this is what you're supposed to do. So one way or another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired the mother of Musa to put him in a tabut, in a basket, and throw him into the water. But shaitan, of course, doesn't want you to do that. Shaitan doesn't want you to follow the commandments of Allah, to do that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has command. And so so she has this idea, and that's how the shaitan doesn't whisper with verbal voices. He whispers directly into the hearts of man, into your chest. الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. So what do you hear? You don't hear, you get an idea. And that idea sometimes is from the shaitan. If it is in the disobedience of Allah, it's from the shaitan. If he's telling you to disobey Allah or to delay the obedience of Allah, then it is from shaitan. So the shaitan comes and whispers whispers to her, and he says, what's going to happen? Like, wouldn't it be easier? He's going to come. They're going to come and they're going to slaughter him. And then after that, you bury him. You wrap him up and you bury him. It is better than you. If you do that, at least you have a peace of mind. At least you have a peace of mind that, that yes, they killed him, yes, but at least, that's the end. Right? But if you throw him into the ocean, into the river, the ocean, what's going to happen? You're going to go crazy. You don't know if he died, if he survived. That's worse for you. That's worse for you. And this is what the shaitan whispers to her. But she does what she's inspired to do. And she throws him, she puts him into the water, the river. And it's not easy. You have a baby. What are you going to do? You don't know where this water is going to, where the river is going to take him. You don't know where it's going. You don't know if this is going to sink and then he's going to drown, or the animals of the sea or the ocean devour him. You don't know if he's going to survive. You don't know, and that's very, very difficult. And of course, when she was pregnant, she was worried already for the whole year, almost. All those 9 months, you know that this is the year. How do you think she's feeling? And now it's not going to end. After you give birth, at least you come to a conclusion, but no, you're not going to know what's going to happen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan. And if you're ordered to do something, if you follow Allah's plan, or if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow Allah's commandments in everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you even better. Will give you the best. And that's why when there's halal and haram, when the shaitan comes whispering, don't listen to him. It's a deception. He's your enemy. So anytime there's an idea of disobedience of Allah, push that aside and be obedient to Allah. So inshallah, I want to just stop right here. Like Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said to Sa'id ibn Jubair, it's a long story. It's a long, long story. Come back to me in the morning and I'll tell you the story. And he came to him in the morning and he took the whole day that he sat with him, and he's narrating this, and this is what we're getting from him. And I'm just going through some of this narration is in Musnad Imam Ahmad, and it's telling us the story of Prophet Musa from the beginning to the end. Not me, but this is Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, Turjaman al-Quran, speaking to Sa'id ibn Jubair, one of his most prominent students. And so these are the details. Inshallah, we will continue with this beautiful story. one of the most amazing stories, inshallah. So I think next week, May Friday, he said after Maghrib, inshallah, we'll continue with that. And as you can see, there's not too many people, but for me, it doesn't matter. Me telling a story, I'm telling it myself. I'm enjoying it myself more than anybody else. So, and if you get 2 or 3 people, it's no problem. It's not a big. Yeah, I remember with a story that one of our